Hello everyone, my name is Udit Sharma and welcome to Demystify VARC, where I try to make the VARC section of the CAT exam easy for people. So this is lecture number 4, and in this lecture basically we are going to talk about sociology and anthropology. A little bit upon these topics because CAT and other exams often focus upon these areas and make their reading comprehension part. So this is some basic gist about me, and you can see it on the screen, my VRC performance. But I'll just discuss what today we'll be talking about, and then I'll move forward. So in sociology, basically, I'll explain what exactly it is, and we'll talk about different themes which are typically asked in RCs, and these themes are picked up from the whole vast subject. So that is one thing. Second, we'll study a little bit about anthropology. Most of it overlaps with sociology itself, but then there are certain parts that you need to know which are a little different, uh, and we'll understand the difference between the two as well. And a third thing that we'll do today is that there are certain cultural narratives, which I'll talk about later on, that we'll study and how CAT has been asking passages on that too. Cultural narratives, yeah. Other than that, in the end, I'll of course show you how to use ChatGPT to make good passages, and I'll give you an Excel for tracking your preparation. So tune in with me, and we begin. Yeah, so let me just go. Yeah, so this is the Word document that I had made. So first, as I said, we'll be talking about sociology and anthropology. So let's begin with sociology. So what exactly is sociology? Sociology means scientific study of human societies. Basically the structures, interactions, cultural norms that guide the behavior. For example, Indian society, what is the kinship model? What is the stratification of the society on the basis of class, caste, dynamics of the society, interrelationship between different elements of the society? So these things. And as it says, it examines how individuals and groups are shaped by social forces such as family, education, economy, religion, politics, etc. For example, in India, there is a lot of family focus. So we do a lot of things because family says so, or family asks us to do. So that is what basically sociology is. Crisp में बताऊं तो if you remember in Three Idiots, there was a thing, right, that अच्छे कॉलेज में इसलिए जाना है ताकि अच्छी नौकरी मिले, अच्छी नौकरी इसलिए मिल रही है ताकि बैंक क्रेडिट कार्ड दे, ताकि लड़की अच्छी लड़की से शादी हो, and so on and so forth. So this is basically the societal thinking which has developed over time, and that is what sociology basically traces. And this is just a anecdote. Say, imagine you're standing at a busy crosswalk, uh, and the walk sign is red, but no cars are coming. But still, now there can be two reactions to this. One is a person who sees that okay, it's red light, but no cars are coming, so I can like I can cross the road and break the rule. Other people still wait, despite of there being no traffic or no other car coming on the opposite road. So why is this? A social or sociology tries to understand why people behave in certain way, even when they should rationally not. They should not do. So, for example, here I've written that most people wait at the red light because it's what the society expects. Crossing a red light on is considered improper, and breaking the rule might draw judgment. This is how sociology affects us. So, typical sociologist tries to ask these questions: Why do people follow unwritten rules even when they don't seem to be necessary? Do these norms vary across cultures? For example, is there something different between India and UK? Just a very small thing. In UK, for example, what used to happen was only the eldest son used to get the share of property, share as in the whole property. But in India, for example, it was distributed among the sons, and in certain cases, even the daughters. So there is a difference in the society's thinking, okay, and it percolates down to a lot of things. Uh, I'll just, for example, give you a gist. For example, in UK, as I said, there was this concept of only the eldest son getting the whole property. So what used to happen was the younger ones had to fend for themselves, and that's why UK had to go to vast lands to actually expand itself because the land was falling short. So that's how uh, colonialism and imperialism was initially initiated. So this is very small sociological observation which led to a vast difference in our history. Okay, so yeah, how do following rules maintain social order? What happens when people break the rules? If you remember last class, we studied about social contract. So in this how the following rules is important because inherently in our brain we feel we are part of some contract which is known as a social contract with the government or with the society in general. So this is a gist of sociology. So as I said, today we'll be picking upon certain themes. So I'll just tell what these themes are. One will be cultural norms. Norms. These are norms that have evolved over time because of human progress. Second will be workplace norms. Uh, a lot of passages do come on this thing specifically these days. Workplace, as in your office setting, what should be the norm? What is the way of working, or what has been the development in the past few years and in the setting. And third, we'll study about feminist history or a little bit about feminism and feminist history because it's a very important part of sociology. And then we'll move to anthropology. So let us first begin with cultural evolutions, historical context, and foundation. So in this part, we'll understand about how societies actually develop. So in early societies, the main thing was survival and cohesion. For example, in Native American tribes, communal land practices to maintain harmony. So land was owned by community so that people don't fight amongst each other. So at that point of time, community fighting used to take place. So there are different theories that you can see: collective conscience of Durkheim, that it is more important than individual conscience or individual attention. Then you have theory of functionalism, which says that cultural norms and traditions are tools to meet societal needs, such as maintaining order and survival. So you need these norms so that there is less disorder and more predictability in the society. Only then society can function. If you know that there is certain thing that will happen regularly, only then can you grow. Correct? Then there is structuralism, that you need that certain structures are very important. Cultural systems such as kinship, myths reflect the underlying structure of human thought. Kinship is basically your relationship with your family and your offsprings. That is basically kinship. You have dadaji se pote se bacha, and simply that is what basically is kinship. And myths reflect the underlying structures of human thought. For example, in religion, several religion, myths were often used to instill some kind of fear of the unknown so that people don't deviate from the correct path. बेसिक एग्जाम्पल कैन बी कि रात को भूत निकलते हैं so that people stay at home at night, and night where there is certain order. It's kind of a myth that was prevalent. So these are certain things which led to evolution of early society. So early society, if you know that this will be in say BC period and even a little post BCE period, the main thing was that there was community ownership of resources, heavy dependence upon religion, community ownership, dependence on religion, and more of collective thinking. Then we see that there were agricultural and industrial revolutions. So these are way apart in timeline, but I have clubbed them together because of the effect they had on society that we'll analyze. So agriculture revolution, when it came, what happened was people and nomads started to settle. When they started to settle, they needed ownership of land, and when there was ownership of land, there was surplus. There was production and there was surplus. This surplus could lead to uh, people clubbing together to make communities, and then which led to formation of kingdoms and then army and all. So this was what agriculture had done to our society. It made humans static. We started staying at one place. So this was the impact of agricultural revolution. So example, you see that feudal systems in Europe legitimized inequality through divine right doctrines. And what this basically means is that when kingdoms came, now you wanted everybody to follow the king, and king at that time point of time was not elected. So because of agricultural revolution, as kingdoms developed, there was a certain theory known as divine right theory, which said that the king has been sent by God, messenger of God, things like this, Devapiyam, or lover of beloved of the God, something like this. These were titles that were given to kings so that people would follow them, and there was a close nexus between the king and the church or clergy or even the temples or anything in different parts of the society. So this was the effect of agricultural revolution, and then came industrial revolution. So if you read about Protestant, we'll talk about it later on also. But if you read about industrial revolution, what industrial revolution did was it led to mass production. and led to consumption. So in industrial, it further propagated urbanization. Rural clusters became urban clusters. New cities developed. Industrialization led to it was a direct, I would say, not a effect, but a direct result of even imperialism, because you had societies to feed, or if you had societies where you could sell your goods. So cheap goods became the norm. It led to modern day work settings. So this is what the effect of industrialization was. You can see, I have mentioned a few theorists here. You can just read them. For example, Karl Marx, the famous thinker of communism, is historical materialism, that economic systems shape society's superstructures like culture and religion. So what he says, that culture and religion are in fact shaped by economic inequalities or economic systems. Matlab hegemony. The person who wants to maintain hegemony will try to uh, twist the culture and religion in his favor. Then we have Max Weber. He was a person who actually gave bureaucracy to the world and made it famous. The He talked about Protestant ethics. So if you yeah, in Christianity there are a lot of streams. So one of the streams is Protestants. I guess UK, most of the people in UK are Protestants. So Protestants believe in individualism, hard work, and hence they were inherently capitalist. That's why people say that industrial revolution first came to United Kingdom. Okay. And then you have this concept of cultural hegemony, which says that dominant groups propagate ideologies that reinforce economic and social hierarchies. A very This is that any dominant group, say for example in India, it says that the upper caste used to hog all the important positions, and would reinforce then provide these important positions, would make laws that reinforce social and economic hierarchies. So this is just one of the things that people say. If it's true or not, we don't know, but this is what used to happen, and is seen to be happening in various regions across the world. The same is true, is said to be true for whites in UK, USA. So, for example, for a long period of time, blacks and landless people could not even vote in USA. So that's what basically agriculture and industrial revolution is. And the third that is there is modernity and globalization and hybrid cultures. So what happened was post World War II, people realized that we need to make the world more interdependent upon each other so that we don't fight. Clearly, an idea which has not worked very well. But yeah, this was the initial thought. That's why came the ideas of globalization and hybrid cultures. Hybrid culture is basically people wanted to prevent hyper nationalism as it was seen in Italy, or fascism, which was seen in Italy, Japan, Germany at that point of time. So that's why these modern thinkings of globalization and hybrid cultures came. So, for example, today you have K-pop as a hybrid cultural product, blending Western and Korean influences. You have something known as yoga, then you have a Western yoga. So yoga is or yoga is typically Indian, and then you have Western people also trying to copy and do some changes in it. So that's how it is interlinking. So in India, we always had this concept of Vasudevai Kutumbakam, that world is one global village, and we should be a part of this global village and not cause troubles in it. So this is a modern thinking of it, or modern version of it. So, for example, there are certain theories that you can go through. I'll just give you a brief. For example, globalization and reflectivity, that cultural practices are reshaped as individuals and societies reflect upon and adapt to global influences. For example, uh, say M culture came to India. M culture is basically McDonald's, Macintosh, MTV. This came to India and people adapted to it and people accepted it. Even eating non-veg now has been accepted at a very wide scale in India. So we adapt to global influences or Western cultures. Similarly, yoga is opposite. It's an example of Indian culture being adapted by the West. So uh, recently I read somewhere that chicken tikka is probably the most famous dish in United Kingdom, or in London. Sorry. So even that is an example of those people trying to learn from not learn from us, but adapt to our tastes and cultures, because a lot of Indians are there, and now that has become very famous, and even locals of UK have started liking it. Then you have something known as globalization. Globalization is something basically what making local things, specifically of villages, communities, and tribes, go global. This is a perfect definition of globalization. Local cultures adapt and reinterpret global influences to maintain unique identities. So what happens is that, for example, McDonald's came to India, but it realized that for it to be actually successful, it needs to make burgers differently. That's why you have chicken tikka masala burger, or you don't have any beef burgers because beef is not a part of Indian culture, or very not look very highly upon. Or if you see, when most of these car companies or automobile companies usually do a joint venture with an Indian firm so that they can get a psyche of the Indian customer. That's why Maruti Suzuki was successful, because they made cheap cars with good mileage and nice leg space. So you have to understand the psyche of that place. So that is why in MBA also this is very important. That is what exactly localization is, and localization is also globalization of local cultures. So what I mean is, for example, in India today, there is a place in Bihar known as Darbhanga. Now in Darbhanga is the place where makhanas are made, makhanas, and today makhanas are famous across the globe, across the world, because of their they're very good in for reducing weight, as a very good snack. So they are famous across the world. So this is a ODOP product, one district, one product. But they are very famous. Wait, I'll just change the color. Yeah, so that there is no confusion. So now this is a local thing which went global. They're also part of globalization. And then we have something known as global cultural flows, which is modernity is characterized by global movement of people, ideas, and goods. uh, as I said, world is one village. So today you have Indians, so many Indians staying in United States of America, that they have started influencing US elections. So the ideas, Indian people, Indian goods are going towards that place. Same is with many other countries as well. So we'll just. So this was basically how cultural norms have been influenced in sociology over a period of time. I'll just erase this part so that there is. Yeah, wait. Just give me a second. Yep, that's fine. Wait. Yeah. Now, second, as I said, first we'll ready about cultural evolution that we have studied, where we talked about, as I said, first we talked about early societies, then we talked about agriculture and industrial evolution, and then we talked about modern, in like modern settings where globalization and workplace, hybrid cultures basically influence the society. Now let's talk about workplace norms. What are workplace norms? Are basically what rules, regulations, behavior is expected out of a person in a workplace, and how these they have evolved over time, and what were the unsaid nitty gritties of a workplace and how they have evolved over time. So let's study that. So we have pre-industrial economies. This is post the agrarian age, and but pre-industrial age. So basically pre 17th century, sorry, pre 18th century. So, community centric labor. For example, guild systems in medieval Europe regulated training and pricing, ensuring collective stability. So, labor was community centric. A whole community was engaged in only one kind of labor, and they used to do the work. So, there are certain theories and thinkers. For example, this traditional community based labor contracts with modern impersonal economic relations. One thing. And the great transformation, the shift from embedded economies, socially regulated, to market economies disrupted community ties. So this was what happened post once your pre-industrial economy moved towards industrialization. Now, second is industrialization. So, how did industrialization change? So, as I said, in pre-industrial, what used to happen was there will be a whole village employed in doing something one only, one particular thing, mostly agriculture, or say since there was less mechanization, most of the a lot of labor was needed to do even basic things such as make textiles. So everybody was involved in that, and then at that point of time, since everybody was involved in that, they all were stakeholders and significant stakeholders, and hence since they were significant stakeholders, it was said to be community centric labor. But now came industrialization. Industrialization, typically, if I tell you, led to few things. For example, it led to first improvement in machinery. So you saw advent of machinery such as steam engine, or even electricity, or for example, power loom also came to be there in textile. Then there was construction of railways, which was very important. So these two things and several other things, that urbanization took place, and fourth, banking also helped, which led to availability of capital for investments. So all these led to industrialization, where uh, which led to standardization and worker exploitation, because now much fewer workers were required to actually run the thing. So mill was dependent more upon mechanics than humans. Thus the bargaining powers of humans reduced, at least initially. And that's why you have a certain theory that labor unions like United Auto Workers arose to combat poor working conditions. So just to combat this is what happened. United Auto Workers was a automobile manufacturing company, and their laborers made one of the first labor unions. So you have several theories. For example, Karl Marx, the same guy who who's the great thinker behind communism. I don't know which country it has worked for, but yes, he gave the theory of alienation and exploitation, which said that capitalism alienates workers from their labor, and that was the whole communist movement, right? Ownership of factory should be in the hands of workers or the state rather than any one capitalist, because capitalists inherently are exploitative. That was what the idea of Karl Marx was. Then there was Durkheim's division of labor. Specialization fosters interdependence, but also can create normlessness. Anomy theory. So Durkheim gave what was known as his anomy theory, which says that there will be normlessness in the society because of specialization. You won't know what the other person is doing. Other person won't know what you are doing. You, you will have your own individual goals because of what you have specialized in. This guy will have his own individual goal, and then you start lobbying for different things to the government, and this will lead to normlessness. इधर करूँ इधर जाऊँ या इधर जाऊँ. For a typical example today is uh, like recently I was reading that MSMEs do not want steel to be taxed heavily during imports, or custom duties to be high on steel so that they can source it cheap. But steel industries in India want it to be uh, like there should be heavy custom duty on steel so that they are not driven out of the market, because the Chinese are dumping steel in India. So these are two different groups have two different goals, and now government is stuck between them. So this is a very classical example. And then you have a scientific manager, F. Taylor. We talked about him yesterday also when I said that during industrialization, concepts such as one best way to do a work came. So this is scientific management. What he said that rationalizing labor processes to maximize efficiency uh, through processes such as sorry. So where was I? Scientific management. So typically, I said scientific management through things like one best way to do a work, or incentive based payment mechanism, division of labor, better management. So incentive based payment mechanism, for example, was a outcome of Frederick Taylor. So rationalizing labor processes to maximum efficiency, but it also led to dehumanization of workers. It was called that he considered workers to be cogs in a wheel, only mechanistic. He did not, give much thinking about the sociological or psychological aspects of work. So these are the things that were outcome of industrial society or industrialization. Now, post-industrial societies typically that you see today, service-oriented or knowledge-based societies or service societies, where flexibility and innovation, are given much more importance. So today, for example, you have gig platforms like of that of Uber, Zepto, Zomato. They challenge traditional employment norms. So how this works is basically in gig, uh, you can work at your own time. You don't have to report to anybody for taking leaves. You typically are flexible to choose your workplace and etc. You are flexible to even choose which day you want to work or not want to work. But then there are downsides of this as well. First, is that you don't have any kind of insurance or pension plan or something. Second, since people or workers are isolated, they don't have a collective voice, and hence there are chances of exploitation. But then gig has often worked people also in case of remote jobs. Say your gig and you're in a remote place, but you're earning in dollars, so that has helped. So there are different theories. For example, post-industrial theory, a shift from industrial production to knowledge-based economies. What are knowledge-based economies? Consulting, global capability centers. So consulting, you all want to get into consulting after MBA, right? Most of you would love to work for one of the big three or something like that. So that is what knowledge-based economy is. Then you have the theory of corrosion of character, which says that although flexible work environments undermine traditional career paths, so uh, they are undermining traditional career path and long-term commitment, and which has led to corrosion of character. For example, say gig worker only today, if Zomato pays him more, he'll go there. Otherwise, he'll go to Zepto or he'll go to some place else. Or in case of best example is work from home. Now everybody knows that at work from home, those who don't want to work do not work, and they often think of it as a paid holiday. So that's what corrosion of character is. And then you have something known as network societies. So due to technology, today we can be sitting at different places and still operate and work for the same project. For example, in a recent project I'm working on with my friend, I am sitting in, say, Ambala near Delhi. My friend is in Germany. His brother is in Bangalore, and one of his brother's friends is in USA. But we're working on the same project and it's going pretty well. So these are network societies. Digital technologies enable us to be decentralized. We are decentralized. We have our own network, and then we are cooperating. But it also says that, these things exacerbate inequalities, they increase inequality. Reason being, those who have access to digital technology would benefit from it, and those who do not, they will suffer. So this is what basically technological dualism or digital divide is. So technological dualism is that those who have the capacity to invest in technology will invest there and reap the benefits, thus creating a virtuous cycle. And those who do not will not be able to, and thus creating a vicious cycle. So if you are poor, you won't be able to buy good technology, you won't be able to increase your sales, whatever, and you won't be able to, you will stay poor. So this becomes a vicious cycle. So that's what basically they want to say. Now let me just clear this off. Yeah. Now we come to gender studies. So we talked about, typically we talked about first cultural evolution, then we talked about workplace and how workplaces have changed, and third we are not talking about gender studies. The most important part of this is the feminism movement and the new, things that are happening in the sphere. So first, pre-modern societies, reinforcement of gender roles, that man has to be the winner and the woman has to stay at home and responsible for all the domestic work. So confined to domesticity. So everybody, here will start. There were theories which used to justify this. For example, structural functionalism theory, that certain structures of the society are essential for the stability of the society. Otherwise, the society will collapse. For example, many people even today say that if the woman also starts earning very much and man also starts earning very much, they both have divergent goals, often leading to divorce. Things like that to justify the initial ideas. Then the origin of family, private property, and state. So what this says that gender roles rose from the fact that private property could only belong to man, and thus woman was subservient to the man because she could not have any financial or ownership rights. Then, nature culture dictomy given by Sherry Ortner. So what this talked about, that women was often compared to nature and men with culture. So men used to, most of the high priests were men. They used to define what are the cultural narratives of the place. They used to be the leaders of ceremonies and all. So men were associated with culture, but nature, typically the job of nature, we say Mother Earth, the job of caregiving, job of taking maintaining stability of the household, was said to be of the female, and women were associated with it. So even in Indian thinking or Indian theology, there is something known as Purush and Prakriti. So woman is considered to be Prakriti and Purush is male. That's what nature culture dichotomy was. Then we come to the women's movement. So women's movement were these feminist movements. There were certain waves of feminism. So these feminist movements which transformed how the society perceives women, how women also perceive themselves, and what are the expectations and outcomes of these, basically, that we'll study. So there are certain theories and thinkers. I'll not go over to the waves of feminism. We'll read it in this table. But theories and thinkers, for example, there was a concept of existential feminism, which means that gender is not innate but socially constructed, with women relegated to the status of others. So, women being treated as second-class citizens. In USA, for a long time, only men could vote. So that we'll study later on. Then feminine mystique was critique, which was that women confined women to domesticity. So even today, in certain cultures, say in Iran, more so in Afghanistan, in Afghanistan, woman has to be accompanied by a man, even if he is just 1 year old, to if he wants to go outside or wear a certain kind of dress to go outside. Then there was the concept of sexual politics, that in reality, patriarchy drives the society and politics, and this patriarchy won't go away on its own. Thus we need some kind of feminist resistance. That's why you had the suffrage movement, that's why you had the movement for equal pay, that's why you had the abortion rights movement. So that we'll study about a little. So this is the first wave of feminism, late 19th to early 20th century. So typically this will be 1880s to say, sorry, 1910s, somewhere around that. So legal and political equality in 19 actually 30s, yeah, because most of the suffrage rights were won post World War One. So voting rights, for example, 19th Amendment, voting, women got the right to vote, women got property rights. So you can read the differentiation on your own. But second wave of feminism was, for socio-cultural rights. So as you see, voting right is political right, property right is kind of a financial right. But socio-cultural equality, for example, equal pay, so that strata in the society can be same, or rights on own body, abortion rights, Roe versus Wade judgment was that only, or Equal Pay Act. So this was very important, the second wave. And then there came the third and the fourth wave. It is said that the real feminism ended with the second wave, and the third and the fourth wave often promoted feminazi. But we have to study. So third wave of feminism was, uh, it broadened the scope to include identities within women as well. So a black woman, a Chinese woman, an Indian woman, or uh, so it embraced diversity and rejected single narrative of a woman, of a tribal woman. So something like this. So it focused on diversity, and this also coincided with the initial gender movement, so gay rights movement. So initial gay right movement also coincided with it. So inclusion of marginalized voices and LGBTQ plus representation. So LGBTQ is what exactly this? So initial third wave coincided with the initial LGBTQ plus representation and movements as well. And then came the fourth wave of feminism. This was also known as digital feminism. Use of technology to promote feministic ideas. For example, Me Too movement was very famous. So technology-driven activism, and this was they're prevalent even today. So UT hashtags justice for the so and so. This has been very good in certain cases, but has also been uh, has also often come under scrutiny for misguidance. So it has led to global activism. So basically, this was what was there from the feminist part. Yeah. And then, today there is contemporary focus is on intersectionality and gender fluidity. For example, you have in the Me Too reveal systemic focused on workplace harassment. So job doing women's के ऊपर था, the whole Me Too movement. There are certain theories that you can read. For example, performativity. Gender is a social construct performed through repetitive acts, challenging binary norms. So this is the whole concept of gender being fluid. And also, I really don't subscribe to it, but you can read these theories if you want to. Then we come to interdependence theories, and interdependence of themes, sorry. So these are integration intersection. So for example, recently you must have heard about this term DEI. Passage can come on it, I don't feel it should. But so what DEI is: a diversity, equity and inclusion. It was started by BlackRock for all its companies where it was an investor, and it basically focuses on having people from different backgrounds and different voices in the company. So inherently it's a very good idea. For example, even I'm a very big advocate for, say, that I feel MBA is a very elitist degree, and it's very urban centric. Should move towards rural settings, include people from tier one and tier two. So that will include DEI, but people, things are politicized. So this is what DEI actually is. For example, and you can read certain theories, Habituous and Field. They give a theory that workplace behavior and norms are shaped by cultural and structural forces, reinforcing social hierarchies. There are certain cultural forces and structural forces which are at play in the workforce. A very good example of this, can be when initially in Indian bureaucracy, people felt that although there is reservation, but in promotion, uh, certain sections of the society used to take advantage, the upper caste and all, and hence the lower castes were not promoted. So they advocated for reservation in promotions as well. So this is what workplace behavior and norms are shaped by cultural and structural forces that you can understand. Then there is some this disciplinary power given by Michael Foucault, which says that workplace norms and expectations reflect broader systems of control and surveillance. That today there is something known as digital taylorism, Taylorism. That is, modern day tracking of workers. For example, when you log in, when you log out, how much meeting you had in one day, for what amount of time were you in the teams. Second, in case of say gig workers, what is their current location, how fast are they moving, how what much time they will take. So continuous tracking and surveillance. This is what the basically new kind of theories that have come up for interdependence of the integration, intersection, and basically this is integrating technology with gig and Taylor's idea of scientific management with technology. So that's what disciplinary power is doing over here. Then you have modern challenges. This is important because in modern challenges we will talk about how technology affects employment, cultures, societies. For example, automation and AI replacing traditional jobs. So especially with the advent of GPTs and large language models. So this is a very common topic and passage can come on this. So there are certain theories, for example, the theory of risk society, that technological advancement is good, but it can produce risks because we don't know the fallout of this. So we may replace a job with technology and later on realize that, oh, there was a big risk in it. For example, it is said that technical inspection is good, but humans go beyond what is given to them for inspecting. Hence, human inspection has a better uh, observance vis-a-vis technology. So if you replace all human with technology, you might there might be some loophole that you are unaware of which people exploit, and that's a risk. Then you have global cities. So this theory basically says that in the globalized world, in the post World War II world, and this in the technological and service knowledge economy world, basically certain cities are in control and all other places, rural areas, are just peripheries. So even say if we see in India, what is there is that there are certain uh, places in India which you know certain places in India such as Delhi, Ahmedabad, Surat, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, Vizag, maybe Calcutta. These places are hubs of economy, and everybody else is dependent upon them. A lot of our economy is just contributed from these cities. So that's what the concept of. So this is on a global level. The concept is that certain global cities have huge control. So I was just reading one day that economy of whole of Africa is equivalent to just three cities of USA, whole African continent. So things like that. Concentration of economic power. Then we have these future territory means that what can we do to solve the current problems, or what are the new initiatives that are being taken. For example, Sweden leads in workplace gender equity with equal parental leave policies. In India, we are talking about menstrual leave today. Okay. So something like that. You can read about these. Not very very important. Now let's come to anthropology. So here we need to understand a few things, that what is like how is sociology and anthropology different. First, so sociology focuses upon contemporary societies, examining the institutional relationship between social structures. And anthropology is a study of a broader timeline, focusing more on ancient societies and cultural evolution. So say this is anthropology from say BCE period to say today. So anthropology will focus on how one event evolved into another event and how culture played a role in it. But sociology will concentrate on a very specific part of it. And that too, it will concentrate upon the society, the inherent differences in the purchasing power of people, the caste and the class differences, differences between gender roles. Okay, also you can read this. I'll just explain. Say, imagine you are visiting a rural community, small rural community. A sociologist would ask questions such as how, say, if you're studying farming, you will say, how does community organize labor? What are the power dynamics between landowners and laborers? How do economic changes such as industrial farming, technological advancement affect social mobility? ये sociologist का काम है. But if you come to anthropologist, an anthropologist typically would be interested in what rituals or traditions are tied to planting or harvest season. Jhum cultivation, slash and burn. What is going on? How do community farming practices connect to their beliefs about nature and environment? For example, sacred groves in Northeast. Some people, plant bamboo because it is revered or it is considered holy. What role does storytelling or folklore play in passing down farming knowledge? So this is, for example, in India, say in dry places, there are folklores, which tell when the rain is gonna come, or and when the rain will come, they will plant their seeds. Then I'll just tell you a very small anecdote from my life. So I was studying in a college in Udupi. So in Udupi, what people used to do is, whenever there is rain, or it's like whenever there is a little delay in rain, they would marry frogs. so as to invite the rain. So these things. So typically these things are what an anthropologist would study about. So we won't go into much detail upon anthropology, but just know that anthropology would study prehistoric era, and you can use this to make passages also that say study of early humans, hunter gatherers, group survival strategies, then agricultural revolution, how it led to making of nations, and then how nations led to cultural shift from egalitarian to hierarchical, because once you had a king, you had bureaucracy, you had landowners, then you had slaves working on these owners. So you had inherent class difference. In case of India, say you had kind of caste difference. Then rise of civilizations, then uh, basically law, ethics, and code of conduct that came into being. For example, Hammurabi's code. Hammurabi's code. This is a code which was actually found, very old code which was found in Babylon and Mesopotamian. It was like a constitution of them, it was like a constitution for them to uh, guide the public. So it was like a constitution then. So this is what an anthropologist will look at. And then typically industrial revolution, how it affected. There was something known as mass production ka concept, analysis of cultural changes in family, how urbanization took place. So these all things an anthropology just will look about, and you can get a passage say how industrial revolution led to development of new urban centers, such as say Manchester in United Kingdom, something like this. So and a passage on critique on capitalism also you can get from industrial revolution. And then you have the modern era, globalization, technology, global value chains. So digital technologies, yeah, exactly. Study of hybrid cultures. Hybrid cultures is again global village ka concept or digital world. So you can get a passage on this. And hybrid cultures also means typically, for example, as I guess I said right that McDonald's comes sells burger in India, but that is burger does not have beef. It has chicken first, and then that chicken is also chicken tikka masala. It is more spicy, more flavored. So these things definitely have effect. That I guess we have not studied about. Yeah, we'll study it later. Wait. So then these are certain things which are very important from the paper's perspective. So cultural narratives of indigenous and ancient civilizations and how they affect modern discussions. So cultural narratives are stories, folklores, traditions that reflect the value, beliefs, and history of a group of people, and how they can be used to interpret modern discussions or can be implemented in modern settings to improve our current way of life. So there was a passage in CAT 2021. I will show it to you in the end, slot one, on the Mayan civilization, how it saw things differently and how we can also use it today. So there are certain examples. So typically, how indigenous and ancient cultures explain the world. For example, Native America have this concept of great turtle, that there is a huge turtle and the earth is on its back. This is there in even Hindu mythology and Indian mythology as well. Or in Rig Veda, we speak about universe being born out of cosmic sacrifice. That's why the concept of sacrifice is very important in our culture. So these things are narratives. Okay, then they also explain how things have to be tied to the nature. For example, the Inuit stories of Sedana. So in it's the sea goddess teaches people to hunt responsibly and respect the ocean. So current, it can relate it to sustainability or community ownership of how this resource belongs to everybody and thus we need to protect it, or trusteeship. It can relate to it and give you a passage on it. So even in India, say the ecofeminism movement of India, the if you remember the Chipko movement or the Apiko movement, the Chipko movement was initially led by Amitra Devi Bishnoi a lot of years ago, centuries ago, to protect the local khechri tree, and later it was again revived in 1970s in Uttarakhand, led by Sundarlal Bahuguna, and it was against deforestation. So how this small cultural movement gave rise to a whole bigger movement. So that's why it's called as ecofeminism, because women led environmental protection. So this is important. Then teaching morals and values, how cultural and ancient narratives teach us morals and values. For example, Maori people. These Maori are people of New Zealand. Connect people to their ancestors, emphasizing on family responsibility. So this is like we have to take care of our family. If you remember, there is this movie Coco. So they teach how Mexican culture focuses upon remembering your ancestors once a year, every year, so that they are calm and are in peace in the heavenly abode as well. Something like that. Or ancient example, for example, Ramayana teaches a lot to us about loyalty, duty, and honesty. So Bharat was a loyal brother. He gave up his throne for even when he had the chance to sit on it for the brother. Duty is very important. Duty of Ram as a husband, Hanuman's loyalty towards Ram, and then honesty, of course, was there. So why are these important narratives important today? Because they will link it to sustainability and environmental responsibility. They may link it to materialism and spiritualism. How materialistic we have become, and how ancient civilizations believed more in community ownership over individual ownership. Something like that. You can read these on your own. They can also give you a passage on how cultures, ancient and indigenous cultures are trying to preserve identity and promote resilience. A very good example of this is, say, in Ramayana itself, resilience is promoted by Ram. 14 years he had to go Vanvas, still he was resilient. Or in Mahabharat, the Pandavas had to go for Vanvas for 12 years, but still were resilient. How they turned Vipda into an opportunity, that is, crisis into an opportunity. The Pandavas. Then they can also relate it to justice, social justice, environmental justice. They can link it to, for example, how indigenous societies had social distribution mechanisms, and how they can be implemented today as well. So it's given over here, so you can read. This is not that important. And then there can be a passage upon challenges in preserving these narratives or these ancient cultures. So there was once a passage upon how museums find it difficult to actually raise funds for preserving ancient artifacts that have been found. So this is a very materialistic way of looking at it. But a lot of times these ancient narratives and indigenous narratives are lost to cultural appropriateness. That is, sacred symbols are marketed, used for cosmopolitan purposes, and often misused or commercialized. This is which leads to cultural appropriation. Also, a way of cultural appropriation is misjudgment. Example: the swastika of the Hindu is often confused with the Nazi symbol, and then it is appropriated in foreign countries in the wrong way. Then there is loss of tradition also, because globalization, imposition of Western culture. As I said, the three M's: McDonald's, Macintosh, and MTV. So McDonald's, Macintosh, and MTV culture. So this has eroded local cultures. So that's the challenge to these narratives. This can also ask. So that's about it for the sociology and anthropology part. Now I have created certain ChatGPT based reading comprehensions. As you can see, make a CAT type reading comprehension passage on pre-industrial economies, community centric labor, and how it can be an alternate model today. So by this only, it will stress upon cooperatives, social ownership, or trusteeship model. So this is what it will basically talk about. So if we read, it has explained what pre-industrial economies were, and how but disintegration to community owned. See, it's talking about cooperative structures. So this is what it will talk about. So if you have an idea about pre-industrial economy, में क्या होता था actually, then it will inevitably help you solving this passage. That's why I'm teaching all this. Then so say you have make a CAT type reading comprehension on cultural narratives of any indigenous civilization in modern discussion. So I have used this to make the language tougher, and I have given it a feel of a newspaper writing. So it will make a passage. So here you can see it is linking it to a modern thing. Movements like Standing Rock protests against Dakota Access Pipeline demonstrate how indigenous cultural stories continue to inspire resistance. Rooted in Lakota and Dakota spiritual ethos that water is sacred, so and so, the protests galvanized global attention and reframed environmental activism. So old concept of water being sacred, or a cultural concept of water being sacred, used in modern protests. It has a link to it. Here again, it has given another concept, so you can try this out. Uh, Let me also wait. I'll uh, copy this, yeah, and try to show it to you live. Just one second. Chatgpt.com. Yeah. So I have the pro version thanks to my friend. So thank you. But you don't need the pro version. And if you just type it, so it might give you a different passage right now. So that's the beauty of it. So it will give you a different output every time you type. Note these headings. Yeah, so you can just read this, how it has Indian cultural narratives are more than they are giving testimonies. Then relevance in climate crisis, it has given identity representation. You can ignore these headings, but read it. Yeah, so typically this is all about it. Now let me go back to my presentation. So yeah, this was it about we studied about sociology and anthropology. Of course, we studied more about sociology and we studied how cultures developed, how workplace settings have evolved, how feminist and gender ethics have gender movements have played a role in the society, how globalization and modern uh, forms of employment have changed the society. And in anthropology, we saw different eras: pre-industrial, industrial, rise of civilizations, modern, and their effect. And then we also talked. Okay, wait. Sorry, just one second. We also talked about cultural narratives. So that is also very important. How ancient and indigenous civilizations way of thinking can influence us today, make us better today. So a passage can definitely come on it, and it has come in the past as well. Now I'll take you to a practice Excel where you can track your progress. So if you click on it, uh, yeah, it's yeah. So it has opened. So if you click on this, you will see there it is. I have made sociology and anthropology sheet, and there you can see different topics for you to practice from this. You can just use the prompts that I have given here and replace the bolded part with any of this. For example, make a CAT type reading comprehension passage on agricultural and industrial revolutions and how they transformed the modern way of living, or make a cat type reading comprehension passage on women movements and how they can inspire today movements, movement movements of 19th and 20th centuries, and how they can inspire the today female led movements. Something like this you can make an RC passage on your own. So do practice this. I don't expect you to do all 13 of them, but do five. And if you practice that, you will get very much comfortable with these kind of topics, and it will really, really help you a lot. Yeah, so let's go back to the presentation. Yeah, this is it from my side. Thank you. I will just wait a second. I'll just show it to you how these passages were asked in the CAT exam. Just give me a second. Yeah, hello. So you can see this is CAT 2021 slot 1. Thank you, Krakow. I downloaded it from Krakow. So you can see it talks about Mayan civilization and how they saw the world. So it talks about how Mayans, gave human-like attributes even to non-living things. So there he says, in order to explore the slippage of categories between humans and persons, I examined a very specific category of ancient Mayan images found painted in scenes of ceramic vessels. I sought out of instances in which faces, some combination of eyes, nose, and mouth, are shown on inanimate objects. So they made inanimate objects as humans. So here it says that human beings were persons, but non-human entities could be persons too. And here it says that personhood was non-binary proposition for the Mayans. It's not like you are living or non-living on ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. So this is a Mayan way of thinking the world. So it's a cultural narrative of the Mayan civilization, and how it basically also dwells into the fact that today also we can learn something from them. So this is was CAT 2021 slot 1. So a practical way of looking at what you are learning. So that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the next video. Keep practicing and enjoy your life.